They say elevators are safe, simple machines that take you up and down, nothing more. But people forget that elevators are doors, and doors sometimes open where they're not supposed to. Tonight's story isn't a myth, a creepypasta, or an internet challenge. It's based on real footage recorded by a man who never made it out of the building alive. If you think you've heard all elevator horror stories, you haven't heard this one. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why investigators sealed the entire building and why nobody is allowed near the elevator after midnight. The footage belonged to Ethan Hale, a 32-year-old building inspector from Chicago. He worked long hours, usually alone, and took pride in documenting everything. The last thing he ever recorded was found on his phone, recovered from inside an elevator shaft. There were deep scratches on the metal, some matching human fingernails. Others didn't. The night started normally. Ethan arrived at Grayson Tower, a luxury apartment complex built in the 70s, but recently reopened after a decade of abandonment. Residents complained about malfunctioning elevators, strange power outages, and a constant humming noise that echoed through the upper floors. No matter how many electricians checked the system, nobody could find the source. So the building hired Ethan, a professional known for solving impossible cases. The lobby camera shows him arriving at 11:48 p.m. He looks tired but calm. He presses the elevator button. The doors slide open smoothly, and he steps in with coffee in hand. When investigators later reviewed the video frame by frame, they noticed something strange. As Ethan walked into the elevator, his reflection in the mirrored walls did not move exactly with him. Half a second of delay, almost like the reflection was thinking before copying. The elevator panel inside showed 12 floors, but residents reported something strange. Sometimes the button for 14 appeared, flickered, then vanished. Ethan had heard the rumor, but brushed it off as an urban legend. He pressed floor 11, but the elevator didn't go up. It went down. At first, he thought it was just a glitch. The elevator descended smoothly, humming softly, the kind of hum that settles deep in your bones. But after a full minute of going down, past the basement level, past the sub-basement, he frowned. He checked the panel. No floor number was lit. The indicators were dead. The elevator then stopped with a soft bing. The doors slid open. The camera on Ethan's phone showed a long, dim corridor. Flickering lights, old peeling wallpaper. A smell he later described in his voice, recording as wet soil and rusted metal. Like something buried too long and finally dug up. There was no sound, not even the hum of old pipes. Just silence heavy enough to press on his ears. He called out, "Hello? Maintenance? Anyone down here?" No response. His phone couldn't detect any signal, not even emergency lines. But here's where the footage gets terrifying. As Ethan stepped out, the elevator doors stayed open. Usually, they close automatically after a few seconds. But this one stayed perfectly still, almost like it was waiting for him. The hallway stretched in both directions, lined with old apartment doors. Numbers carved into them, not printed like they were scratched by hand. 41, 42, 43. Numbers that didn't exist in a 12-floor building. As Ethan walked, his flashlight caught something on the floor drag marks, long black streaks leading to a door at the very end of the hallway. He approached and gently pressed an ear against the wood. He heard breathing, slow, unsteady, not human. He stepped back, heart pounding, whispering into his phone, "If someone's down here, I'm calling security." But there was no security, not on this level, not on any map. Then the doorknob turned, slowly. Ethan backed away, eyes wide. The door creaked open a few inches. A pale hand thin, almost bone-like slid out and gripped the edge of the doorframe. The fingers were too long, bending in ways that made Ethan flinch. He ran. He sprinted back toward the elevator, boots slamming against the concrete floor, breath loud in the phone mic. Behind him, the dragging sound grew louder, faster. Something was crawling after him, scraping its limbs across the floor like it hadn't walked upright in years. Ethan dove into the elevator. The doors didn't close. He slammed the close button. Nothing. The scraping sound got closer, echoing like claws on metal. Ethan screamed at the doors, pounding the buttons again and again. Finally, just before something reached the elevator threshold, the doors jerked and slammed shut. He collapsed against the back wall, shaking violently. But the elevator didn't go up. It moved sideways. Elevators aren't supposed to move horizontally. The security footage from the building shows the elevator shaft vibrating, the cables twisting unnaturally, as though the machine had become unstuck from the building's blueprint entirely. Ethan whispered into his phone, "This isn't possible. The elevator's not attached anymore. It's moving on its own." A moment later, the elevator stopped with another soft ding. The doors opened to another hallway. This time, the lights were brighter, cleaner, almost new. And for a second, Ethan thought he was safe until he noticed the wallpaper pattern. It was the same as before, but newer, untouched, fresh, like he had traveled backward in time. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Not his. A woman walked into view. She was wearing clothes from the 1970s floral dress, curled hair, heavy makeup. She looked real, until Ethan noticed her feet weren't touching the ground. She turned slowly. Her eyes were hollow. Not empty hollow, as if carved out. She opened her mouth wider than any human could, letting out a sound like a dying siren. Every light shattered violently, sparks raining like burning snow. Ethan stumbled back inside the elevator as the woman floated closer, her jaw unhinging further, revealing darkness deeper than her body should contain. The doors slammed shut on their own. The elevator shot up, shaking violently, as Ethan screamed into his phone, "Please, somebody help me. I don't know what floor this is. I don't know where I am." Then recording cut off. Investigators found the phone wedged inside the elevator shaft 2 days later. The elevator in Grayson Tower no longer works. The entire system was removed, cables dismantled, machinery locked in city storage. But even now, people claim that at exactly 3:14 a.m., the elevator panel in the old building flickers on, and a new button appears. B4. A floor that doesn't exist. A floor nobody has ever returned from. And if you ever find yourself alone in an elevator after midnight, listen carefully. If it starts going down when you pressed up, do not step out when the doors open. Because some floors aren't meant for the living. Some floors are hungry. And some floors are still waiting for someone to open the door first.